What do you do if you get two wonderful people, both working in different spheres but overlapping on the next big win? They both independently decide to go to a conference, unbeknownst to each other. They discover in the last few weeks that they're actually both going to the same conference. They end up at the conference. They have a great time, take away lots of good things here. They come back and say, do you know what? We should share our learnings from that wonderful conference in San Diego with our wonderful Next Big Win listeners. This is Joe on my right. And my name is Mahmood, and we're going to have a little intermission to get that blood boiling or pumping to get that going. So I'm going to shut up and play the music. Well, Joe, that started off reasonably okay, and then my dentures got a bit unstuck here and started going all wobbly. How are you today?
Oh, great, thank you. How are you? What a good introduction that was. I was rubbing it out.
True, though, isn't it?
I can normally see you behind the scenes. I couldn't see you this time. We can normally see each other, and we're normally having a bit of a dance, aren't we?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, maybe StreamYard have I don't know, upgraded a widget or something. But no, we had an amazing time at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego just a couple of weeks ago. And as Mahmood said, we both booked independently to go to the conference for our own business development purposes. So Mahmood's business is I Hate Numbers, and my business is the Big Bang Partnership. But we both learned loads of different things. We wanted to share some of those learnings with you. And we mostly went to different sessions, didn't we, Mahmood? By
Absolutely.
Accident rather than design.
Yeah. And I think what I found really fascinating and wonderful, Joe, that we both made the decision to go to a conference that's nothing to do with our immediate industry, the immediate sectors that we work in. Probably both work with different objectives here, saw different things. I don't think we actually spent a lot of time in seminars that we both wanted to go to. So it's really fascinating. So what was the inspiration behind you going in the first place, Joe?
I want to grow the business, meet new contacts, export more. We already export, but export more of what we do to the USA and beyond. And so it's a really good way to meet and network with loads of people. And we did make some great contacts, I think, and some of those are ongoing, and there's all sorts of collaborations and opportunities developing from it. So that was great. I also learned a lot from the content and the speakers as well.
Yeah, I think pretty much similar here. I mean, the inspiration, same tick box. There's so much you can learn online. There's so much you can learn by talking to other people here, but actually going to meet proper people, real people, getting in that interaction here, and that international dimension as well was something that attracted me there as well. I've never been to San Diego before, so I think all that combined here just made it sort of a trip to be had.
Yeah, definitely. It was fantastic. Well worth the effort, investment, and everything else. And what we've each got our takeaways, haven't we? Some learnings, some lessons from our experience there that we think can help all of you watching with your next big win. So things that are changing, important tips, techniques. I don't know what Mahmood's top 5 things are, and Mahmood doesn't know what mine are. So we might have some similar ones, or we might have things that are completely different.
There might be a game of snap going there, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see how they go. So, Mahmood, what's your first big thing that you would share with anyone going for a next big win?
Okay, this is not an order of priority. And by the way, folks, this is not us sharing our conference photographs with you. It's not like when people come around your house and share all their holiday snaps. It's about the learnings that you get from conferences that aren't necessarily in your sector or in your sector. So I think for me, no particular order, one of the things that came out was in terms of the networks that you develop there. So the people that you meet who come from different spheres, hearing their stories, hearing what they're up to, hearing what they do, it either validates what you're up to yourself, but it also gives you another connection, another person to relate to here that's potentially could be of help, but even though you might want to help them. So I think just building up a network of people that were within that was something that's quite powerful for me.
Yeah, and you can only do so much of that online, can't you? The chat that was had over a glass of wine. I loved meeting Michelle and Stacey for brunch on that very first Saturday morning, and we talked about all sorts of really great things. So it's the socializing bit that you can get in person that online doesn't really offer. So I'd agree with that. And we've still got a WhatsApp group of everybody that's very, very live and kicking, and can see that evolving. So that's great. For me, I've got a content item actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So Michael Stelzner, who is the CEO of Social Media Marketing Week, and he's the person behind the conference that we went to, Social Media Marketing World, did a presentation, a keynote on the future of social media marketing. And he said a couple of things that I thought were really interesting. So the first of those, he said lots of things, but the ones I've picked out are, firstly, that Facebook and also Instagram, but predominantly Facebook, is reorganizing itself by content rather than by people and relationships. And his big tip was, based on some other case studies that he could demonstrate and use, were that actually, if you've got a personal Facebook profile, change it to the professional setting and share content on Facebook, and you'll get a much better organic reach, and sort of move away from using Facebook for family and friends. Now that depends on your family and friends, your priorities, and all of those things. But if you want to get better professional reach and get your content out there through Facebook, then that's the way to use it. So I'm in the process of unfriending a lot of family and friends, letting them know there are other means we can keep in contact, and getting myself ready to do that.
So Joe's family and friends, by the way, please don't give her a hard time at Easter or at Christmas or anything like that.
No.
Do it for business purposes. Interesting you say that. I think a couple of things here is, obviously, folks, there was a social dimension to the conference. So all conferences, events have that social element here, which is really good. It was interesting you say that. I went to a couple of sessions on TikTok and on YouTube here, because I'm particularly those two channels where I enjoy, but also I see as positive for a lot of business growth. I mean, TikTok and YouTube, what they have in common is they're both search engines predominantly. So like Google, that's where people go to look for things there as well. And I think there's two things that struck me. One, I got out of a YouTube session was that when you design content, when you put stuff out there, and video is definitely, a thing that's growing in impact, is make sure you're designing that content, make sure you're developing that content for humans and not for robots. So don't worry too much about whether the robots, in fact, if anything, I believe YouTube are effectively ignoring the tags that go into the footers of videos, and they've got the ability nowadays just to interrogate the actual video and everything that goes around it to see if it's useful content for their viewers.
Yeah, I think it was Tim Schmoyer.
That's it.
Yeah, Tim Schmoyer was saying, and he showed an example of just a lady giving a very short piece to camera on YouTube. She had a camera strap around her neck, and as she was speaking, YouTube was analysing in real time whether or not she was, sexy, aggressive, foxy, clear where she was from, the brands of clothes she was wearing. It was making all sorts of, so it was actually looking at the image and taking all sorts of fine detail as well as the content that she was speaking about, and making decisions around who this content would be appropriate for and how to show it. It was super clever stuff.
Super clever. I think it's interesting. I think slight diversion when you've got things like ChatGPT and Bard coming out, and AI very much in the prominence. In the early stages, there's going to make some judgments that aren't necessarily correct, but as it refines, as the computer power increases, as it gets more data, those refinements will be much more accurate, taking into account sort of variations and differences.
Yeah, in fact, ChatGPT, I don't want to jump in, right, but ChatGPT is one of my insights, because I'm not saying ChatGPT in itself is an insight. I mean, if you haven't heard of it, you must have been living in a cave. But there is something about, so firstly, I picked up again, I think this was in Michael Stelzner's keynote, that the speed of adoption of this technology is the fastest in the world. 100 million users in 60 days. and that's per a Forbes article. So really, really fast adoption. And it's a lot of people think, well, you just ask it a question and it can write something for you. But there's loads of things you can do with it. And from, I've got an ebook coming out at the beginning, well, the end of this month, beginning of next. We're at the end of this month. And I just put in, write the sales blurb for this book. And I didn't tell it any information about the book. And in less than a minute, it actually created perfect sales blurb. And I'm just, I'm going to use it. Most of the things that it creates, I change, but this I couldn't have done better. So I think, using it, thinking about how you can use it for productivity in your business to do things faster and better. And it certainly creates some more persuasive copywriting and those sorts of things, if that's not your strength. So all of these things can help you with your next big win. If you're not looking at these things and trying them, go for it, because they can save you so much time and do a great job.
100%. And I think that's again another thing that came out, and I'm going to talk about A/B testing in a minute on your websites, is that Derek, very much look at this technology that's coming out, folks. Don't be scared of it. It's there. It's going to happen. It's going to get more powerful and all the rest of it. And for those who might be old enough to go back in time when the internet first became a thing, when mobile phones first became a thing, even if you want to go back even further in time, when the abacus was replaced by a calculator and all the rest of it, technology comes in. It has a compounding effect, so it definitely picks up momentum and gets faster. So don't get nervy of it. Don't get scared of it. Think how you can use that and apply that in your business to actually get productivity gains, to actually do things more efficiently. Doesn't mean that you're going to wipe out industries, by the way, but it just means that it's there as a tool to be used there. So you must get on the bus, so to speak, and don't let it fly you by.
Yeah, it's how we adopt it and use it for greater productivity to go faster, I think. So what's another one of your insights?
Okay, I went to, you're better on name than I am. I went to a session on website testing. Now, website testing, I think one of the things I liked about the sessions I went to, there's definitely much what I call hardness coming back into the business life here. So without any disrespect to anyone who likes fluff, a business of the last 15, 20 years, you could argue fluff has taken over, in terms of where fact, data, information is more relevant here. And there was definitely, I think, a hardening now where things like content, it's always been about content, technology, numbers, quantification, understanding. And there was a session I looked on A/B testing. So you got things like Google Console you can use, or Google Optimize, I should say. It's being replaced in September, where you can literally get a single page on your website, and you can actually split test that to say, if I publish this page, what sort of reaction do I get? If I publish this page, what reaction do I get? And by looking under the bonnet and looking at the analytics, you can literally get so much more out of your website. And your website, for most people, is your home store. We should be diverting people there as well. And a lot of us just build them and think that's it, like the Kevin Costner, build it and they will come. But actually, you've got to do much more work for it and a much bigger competitive space here. But there are opportunities there. So that's a particular thing that I got from that, is do your analytics, understand the tools that you're using in your business, and there are ways to actually improve what they are. And something like the website is definitely certainly one of them.
Yeah, that came through in the YouTube streams as well, the YouTube work streams at the conference as well, about A/B testing in terms of things like YouTube thumbnails and the difference they make. So I'm just looking at who. So Daryl Eves mentioned that, do A/B testing. You can use something like TubeBuddy to do that. And others like Justin Brown mentioned those things as well. So yeah, doing this testing, getting data, getting analytics, because Justin Brown showed asked the audience what their preferences were, and then showed what the real life preferences were, and it's fascinating. And just that change of thumbnail or a color or a slightly different expression on somebody's face makes a big difference to the click-throughs.
100%. And it's with Joe, that isn't it? It's that our perception of what we think people want. And we've talked before about, do your research, make sure you test it out in the marketplace. What you think people want isn't necessarily what they actually do want there as well. So that assumption could be a real obstacle and a real trip hazard in your business.
Yeah. So lots of these things are important. You might not be a social media person or marketeer, but actually, if you've got your next big win, influencing, getting the message out there will be part of it somewhere. I would imagine so. And it's good to know about these things from a business growth perspective, because at least if you know about them, you can make a choice, and also make a more informed judgment in terms of if you choose to subcontract some of these things out, you're doing it from a more informed position. So hope these are useful.
So what else would you as a takeaway, Jeff?
I actually just to follow on from YouTube, and then this is I've got a couple, another small one that's social media related, and then I've got a couple that are completely different, and not social media specific at all. Is the launch of YouTube podcasts. So YouTube are launching a podcast platform, and what you can do is go into your current library of videos, and any that you think would be great from an audio perspective. If you've got loads of visuals, and if it's really reliant on lots of visual content, it's not going to be great for audio content, obviously. But you can actually create playlists, a playlist which is a podcast show, and put each episode inside that show. You can have numerous shows on the YouTube podcast platform, and you can highlight existing videos as being podcasts, and put them in there as well. So YouTube are really getting behind and growing podcasts. Video podcasts are on the increase as a trend as well. So that might be, they're a great way of getting the message across, having great conversations, going more in depth in terms of your area of expertise and your business. So look out for those and maybe consider it. It's only just starting, so now's the time to get in on the ground level and get a head start on everybody else.
I think on that one as well, I heard that in the US, they've actually got a specific menu option within the YouTube style. They're going to be rolling that out, folks, across outside of the US. And it's about audio, reading, blogs, videos, all different ways how people consume content here. But it's coming back to making sure you've got content that's relevant for the people that you want to connect to.
Yeah, definitely human content. And one thing I wouldn't recommend is using some of the AI tools like ChatGPT, and there are others, and just relying on that. And I think going forward, there are plans for some sort of watermarking system so that search engines like Google will be able to pick up that it's AI generated, and if it's not great quality, then that will affect rankings and how much it's shown to others and all of those things. What's your next one, Mahmood?
I think the next one for me is about transferability. So in most things that we do in life here, you need, as a business owner, to have your antennae out, not just looking at your own particular sector, but look at how other different sectors do their things as well. And something you can learn. I mean, for me, I always think that marketing and numbers, finance, accounting, business finance are very closely connected. Even though they're different disciplines, they share a lot in common here. So for me, it's just the transferability of ideas that you learn from other sectors, from other businesses here, and think, okay, that's fantastic. How would that work in my business? How can I apply that? How can I actually make that work? What would I avoid here? So it's about keeping your eyes open here. And I felt that even with that sort of social media marketing conference, even though that's not my line of work, even though that's not something I do, I'm an expert of, there's actually things that are going on in those different businesses and that whole landscape that you can apply and transfer to your business. You're just going to be receptive to it and think how you can do that, whether you do it for benchmarking, analytics, systems. So for me, it's just the whole transferability of knowledge, how portable that is.
Yeah, my next one is related to that actually, which is I do a lot of keynote speaking and facilitation. So I'm always interested in speakers and seeing how they speak, what techniques they're using, what makes somebody effective or less effective, and thinking about what I can learn from that. So I'm not going to single anybody out as being, not great or anything like that, because everybody offered great content. But the ones who were the most engaging were straightforward and authentic. There was somebody who went looked amazing, all sparkly, great effort. And the content and the delivery was a bit, and somebody else, trainers, jeans, jumper, just very, them turned up as themselves, but delivered great value, got great engagement. So I think it's about really focusing on connecting with the audience and the things we know anyway, but it's good to see it in action and being yourself. And people who generously gave things away are more likely to buy from people who are generous than people who keep everything behind, a gate and were there simply to sell. And although that's not the purpose of the conference, I think there were a couple who did that. But there's some great creativity, some great energy, and I really liked a lot of the positivity. And it's just really simple things that I do anyway, but to experience them from being in the audience, things like using QR codes so that people in the audience can, on your slides or on your material, so people can quickly connect through and get the things that you're talking about for themselves. And, the people who engage. And for some speakers, engagement was just going, "Do you agree?" "Yeah." And everybody's going, "Yeah." And we all went, "Yeah," a load of times. Right. But actually getting people to, to talk and do different activities. Pelpina, let me just get Pelpina Trip did a great job on video creation, how to easily create quality videos with your phone. Just reading off the thing. I've done my homework, you see. She was amazing. She got people in the room doing things with the phone, sharing it, running around. It was a great session. Loved it.
Yeah, you're right though, in terms of that sort of that interaction and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's from so far, if you did like a balancing act, take into account the time you have to take away from the office, the expense of traveling over there, and all the rest of it, and in terms of what you got out of it, would it be a more balanced towards you got more out of it than you invested in it?
I think the return on financial investment, time investment, and energy investment is already high, and I think I'll continue to see the rewards of that in the business even more so. It's going to multiply over time. So I would say definitely yes, for the things I've learned, the people I've met, and actually for the motivation, the inspiration, the boost it's given me. Because even though a lot of the people there were in social media marketing agencies, that's who I'd say that, and corporates who are responsible for social media marketing in their organizations. They're like-minded people in that they're creative, they want to do good things, and they're inspired to grow. And that was super motivational. What about you?
Yeah, I would say overall yes, and I think there's a couple of things that I've taken from that. If you look at the return aspect, some is more immediate, okay, but most of it tends to be more long term. And what that means is it's quite easy to lose that feeling and that motivation, that oomph. They say get up and go when you come back to normal life, so to speak. Life intervenes here, so it's really important that you actually think, okay, take away 2 or 3 key ideas from there, put them in, do your follow-ups, people that you've connected with, that you said, yeah, let's keep in touch, make sure you do that. So I think if you can put the effort in and the application here, that return is going to be really quite powerful. So short answer is yes. I've also bought my ticket for next year. Always somebody who likes a good bargain, because if for any reason circumstances change, I can't make it next February, which is going to be a bit colder, but I can always give the ticket back by October. But I believed in it enough to think, do you know what, I've got it the first time. Just like any business build up here, you do something for the first time, you don't really see the real value of it until you've done it a few times as such. So yeah, short answer, yes. I thought it's a good investment. Can I do, and when I go back next year, it's a bit more familiar. So therefore, having been more familiar with the layout and what's involved here, I just feel that I can do it a little bit better next year as well.
Yeah, and you're so right about deciding what you're going to do next. I mean, I've got my first 2 video podcast recordings booked in for tomorrow, and some more next week as well. So there's a few other things as well, but yeah, it's deciding what am I going to take away from this and do it, and then crack on, because all of this helps grow the business, which even if it's not directly related to your next big win, that you're working on in your business, if you're there watching, it certainly helps you grow so that you can help with the cash flow and the funding and the growth and the brand to help all your other plans. So really good stuff, I think we've learned. Thank you, Mahmood. I enjoyed that. We've not talked about this, have we? We've not really reflected with each other.
We decided to go independently. We didn't even know. We met her and said, let's do a show, let's do this. Nobody shared what their homework was and all the rest of it. So it's quite interesting, quite good, and quite reinforcing that we've actually got a very similar sort of outlook, albeit that we've taken different perspectives from that. And folks, I think there's one other big takeaway. Whatever you do here, it's great. This is not a holiday in the traditional sense as such. So you can still enjoy something that's a work-based adventure, a work-based thing. You have to have that mindset that says, I'm going to, whether it's San Diego or wherever it is, you have to invest and take that commitment in your own business that says, if I want to move the business dial forward, I've got to spend money and invest things that won't see an immediate return here. But ultimately, we all do that so our businesses can prosper, can grow, so we can carry on doing their why as well. So make sure you've got the right investment hat on as well when you look at these things. Don't just turn them down because you think, I can't afford to do X. My question to you would be, can you afford not to do it?
Yeah, and also, as Mahmood always says, you're the most important asset in your business. You're the most valuable asset, and it's an investment in you as well, in your personal growth, your development, and in your energy and motivation. So if you pick the right event with the right people, that can really skyrocket.
There is one more thing I'm going to mention before we sort of wrap up, Jo. I actually got to meet your husband as well.
You did, didn't you? Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, and he loved meeting you. So so that was really cool.
Everything else is incidental, folks, by the way. I get to
yeah, it was brilliant. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Next Big Win, you can see if you're watching, you can see our website there, nextbigwin.co.uk. I think we're pointing at it. And so there's a quiz on there that you can take. It just takes a couple of minutes, but it will help you with your leadership style and give you some tips on what your leadership style might be, so that you can use it positively to generate your next big win and achieve it. We've also got a contact us bit on the website there as well if you'd like to get in touch about anything, or please leave comments below. If you're watching on replay, just put #replay. We reply to everything. And if you've got any suggestions of things you'd like us to talk about going forwards, then we'd love to hear from you. But I think that's it for tonight. I think
good show. I enjoyed it, Jake. I enjoyed listening to your tips, and I didn't actually know any of them, folks. So this is a complete surprise to me, as much as it's a surprise to Jo. So until next week.
Yes, we'll see you then. Thank you. Bye for now.
See you, folks.